The iOS app is surprisingly easy when compared to the Android app. There are some nuances, but overall the process is pretty simple. First, we need to compile the VM and port. So we need to go back to the cn1 directory and execute these commands. We also need Retrolambda, which we can compile from github.com/orfjackal/retrolambda, or download the binary from oss/context/groups/public/net/orfjackal/retrolambda/retrolambda. I won't go into the compilation process of Retrolambda as I just downloaded the binary. I created a new kitchen sink iOS folder and placed the binary there. You can run Retrolambda with the following command. Once this command is complete, a version of kitchen sink classes targeting JDK5 resides under the kitchen sink classes directory. I won't go into details about this command as I think you would be better served by the documentation in the Retrolambda project. The next step is to create and compile the Stub class, which we will use to launch the implementation. In the kitchen sink iOS folder, I created a stub directory. I then added the kitchen sink stub.java to that directory. The one interesting thing in the stub is the fact that the implementation invokes the runnable callback when it's ready. Everything else is really trivial. This can be compiled using this command. Notice that I used source 1.5 level when compiling. This is crucial as the VM doesn't support Java 8 directly. We use Retrolambda to add support for Java 8 language features, but don't do that on the stub. Once we do this, we can create the output folder xcode proj and run the VM translation code. There is a lot to digest in this command, so I'll break it down to one argument at a time. This should be pretty easy. We are running the VM translator. It's just an executable jar. This represents the VM target OS. This is currently the only supported option. In the future, we might support additional targets for the VM. Next, we have the path. Bash understands this as multiple commands, so we have to put the entire path in quotes. These are the individual elements within. The first element in the path is the stubs directory, where I compiled the kitchen sink stub before. The second element is the classes of the VM. This covers the Java core classes supported by Codename 1. These are the actual classes of the Java app after they went through the Retrolambda process. These are the classes of the iOS port implementation. These are the core implementation classes of Codename 1 itself. These are Objective-C sources that implement the native code referenced from the iOS port. This is the target output directory we created above. This will include the output project. This is the name of the stub class we created. This is the package name of the stub class and the application itself. These are the title and version numbers of the application. This is the target type. iOS indicates a universal iPad iPhone app, but you can specify iPhone or iPad here. And finally, these are the included native libraries frameworks. Codename 1 requires these two by default. Now that this is all done, we have an xcode project under xcode proj/dist. We can double-click the project to launch xcode. This instantly opens a ready-to-run file, but first we need to fix a few things. The first step is picking the main project area and select Build Settings. Then click Architectures entry and select Standard Architectures. The next step is font registration. We need two fonts. One is Handly, which is used in the demo. The second is the Material Design font, which is used for common icons in Codename 1. To do this, we need to select the Build Settings tab, and in it add the attributes for fonts by clicking the small plus button next to one of the attributes. In iOS, you need to declare TTF files included in the project and can't use them otherwise. The build servers do that automatically. You should be able to type fonts provided by application, and Xcode will offer that string to you as you type. Once you select that, you should have one entry called item 0, and you should be able to add another one. Type in the font file names for the project, specifically material design font.ttf and handly-regular.ttf. Notice that these are case sensitive. Notice that this step is currently necessary, but it might be unnecessary in the future. We need to update the two xib files in the application and select the deployment target as 8. Notice that Xcode sometimes fails to accept the selection, and I personally had to restart it twice. Now that all of this is done, you should be able to press play in Xcode and run the Codename 1 application.